Deep in the ocean, an orca pod is on the hunt. But these aren't your average orcas. These guys are organized.
Marketing team, did you get those social media posts scheduled for the SEAL migration?
Aye, Captain. We even have an automated notification for all pod managers when they go live.
They use Monday.com to keep their teamwork sharp, their communication clear, and their goals in sight. Monday.com. For whatever you run, even orcas. Go to Monday.com to dive deeper.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
So, all right. So you move. Did you move to New York after?
No, I moved to Seattle.
I love Seattle.
I do too.
Oh, that's right. You moved to Seattle.
Because it was very far away from Maine.
Right.
And I had a friend whose floor I could crash on.
And you end up sort of saving your sister and your brother in a way.
I mean, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
I don't think they would argue with that. While I was living there, both of them had sort of life collapses because maybe it runs in the family.
Right.
I don't know. Right about the same age I had been, and I helped them emigrate to Seattle.
Right.
And I helped them get apartments and sort of get.
But you started out on someone's floor or couch, and then what did you end up doing?
Well, it's funny because it feels like so few people do this now. Or no, I arrived and I had $20.
Right.
But that thing, people now are like, right, but I also have that credit card.
Right.
But I meant literally
$20.
I had literally had $20. I remember, and I had some. My father had given me, because I drove, and I had this beaten up car, and in the back of the car was my father as a gift had taken me to Caswell's, which is this place that has distressed food, and so he had helped. I don't even think he paid. I think he helped me buy secondhand ramen. So I had defective ramen that was probably past its expiration date, and $20.
Yeah, I grew up by the Burry Cookies factory, and we used to get boxes of broken cookies for $1.
Okay,
and it was just these chocolate chip cookies that are and I was like. My mother would bring home these fucking huge boxes. Yeah, so I get the. So you have a broken down car and old ramen and you're $20.
Yes.
What do you do?
I get a job. I start getting a series of kind of crappy jobs, and I get a rented room in a shared house that is a crack den. But I mean, really, it's Seattle in the 90s. It's a heroin den.
Right.
Let's be clear. But I stay in this room, and I work my way up through all these different temp jobs, and I start performing in theaters, little garage theaters around Seattle. And eventually, I decide that I want health insurance and the respect of other people. And I want to leave the theater.
Right.
Because I'm performing exclusively in unheated garages.
Right.
And let me clear, people are really into my work. I'm very successful.
Right.
In the unheated garage universe.
Right.
And so I just perceive that I'm tired of all that.
Right.
And so I start working at Amazon.
Wow. That's incredible. And now, when you're doing theater, you're doing one-person shows, or you're doing both?
Both. I started doing traditional shows, although when I say traditional, they were all super fucked up shows happening in downtown garage in Seattle. So I did a very still talked about today, a very perverted version of Jean Genet's The Balcony. That is already pretty perverted, but it was really being acted out.
Right.
And I remember that I had to masturbate on stage. So yeah,
all right,
there was just a lot of really
Louis?
Hmm?
Louis? Hey, Louis. What's up?
No, that'd be. I mean, that would have worked out.
And you had
he would have been much more excited about than I was.
Yeah.
I
So you
discovered
had
really definitively that that's not my thing.
Wait, you're master. And how many people are in the audience?
Usually 19,
And
20.
are you like? Do you go through till the end?
I'm not able to come on demand,
same.
especially in that situation.
Yeah.
So no.
Did you have a hard on?
Generally no.
Yeah, I can
Because
just say,
I'm like turned on by so many things,
but not that.
but not that. I'm turned on by public acts. I just like that public act under stage lights with an audience is not doing
That
for
is
me.
so
I want to be like
disgusting.
in an alley and people are passing by or like
Oh my
in a window
God. Yeah,
far
yeah.
away. I don't want to be in
No,
like,
not.
It was horrible. But I mean that was the intention.
Right.
The characters are all very grotesque. Like aesthetically, I actually was like, this is a pretty on point. But then as an actor, I was like, and then actually that specific show led me, like it was doing that show that made me be like, I need to keep doing theater.
Right.
I need to do shows where I control all the variables.
Right.
I am not going to make this is too fucked up.
Right.
So that then I want it to be so that when it's terrible, I know exactly who to blame.
Right.
And they're right in front of me.
Right.
And they can be held accountable.
Right.
And that's what led me to create the monologues.
Wow.
Like I made the form so that I would be responsible for everything. So then when it's terrible,
like stand-up kind of.
Very much
It's
so.
but you're in a theater, so you're way ahead of the, because they're listening already. And you're not, there's no fucking blenders and drunk people. I mean, there's probably drunk people, but you know what I mean.
No, there's distractions, but fundamentally, they're not there.
Right.
To be entertained.
Right.
They're there to listen.
Right.
And I performed over the years, I've like crossed over and performed my work in stand-up venues and really felt the textural difference. And I feel the big difference is the expectation set is so different.
Oh, I know.
Like they're actually there to listen versus like your job is
to make them listen.
Yes.
I say that all the time when people ask me the difference between one-person show and stand-up. It's like, they're already listening. You have to keep their attention, and when you're doing stand up, you have to get their attention, and it's a fucking fight a lot of the time. So, you work at Amazon, not a coffee shop, which I would think you would work at. I actually,
working at a coffee shop in Seattle because people are so serious about coffee, especially in the 90s.
Yeah,
it would be hard to get a barista job in Seattle unless you were like really like no. My goal is to be a barista.
Right.
And I was never that driven. I had like a bunch. It was the 90s, so there was, the economy was pretty good in Seattle. And so I just got like a bunch of weird perma-temp jobs.
Right.
But then I traded them all away to work at Amazon.
Are you still friends with the guy who let you sleep on his couch?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good.
He was best man at my wedding.
Yay.
And then I recently reconnected with him a ton. I was out in Seattle doing a giant show, and we hang out all the time.
I did my first one-person show, 25. It was originally called God Doesn't Pay Rent Here, but then we changed it to 25 Questions for a Jewish Mother because the fucking producers in New York are like, hey, say Jewish, and then they'll all come to the... Anyway, I did it at the Empty Space Theater in Seattle.
I performed at the Empty Space.
I like that theater.
It's a good theater.
Yeah. Okay, so you work at Amazon.
Yes.
I
started in customer service.
Oh, God.
And I worked my way up to business development.
Do you want to kill yourself in customer service?
Yes.
Okay. And then you go up to what
business development.
Okay, which means...
It's pretty much the opposite of customer service, and that customer service is an actual job, like labor, kind of like you pressing the things, like you're taking calls and you're doing something, but you're dispensing bullshit.
Right.
And then business development, there is no labor. It's all bullshit.
Right. So now when you speak to a customer service person, like, are you like, I know you're, because I say that to them all the time. I go, listen, I know that you have your fucking script, but I'm telling you right now, you don't have to follow, you can actually go, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I get, is that?
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very similar.
No, I'm very familiar with the whole trope, with the way that they talk and so it depends on
I can understand why you, that must be so frustrating, Michael. So
I had a whole section of 21 Dog Years where I basically broke down I understand and I empathize. And all I did is I just took it apart, all the steps. Because people listening to the show, all call customer service. So they're interested in what is it like?
And this is pre-dial, press 1, This is pre, you know.
This is like 1998.
Yeah. Oh, maybe it's starting. Yeah, maybe it's.
So I feel like I spent a lot of time. There were a lot of customers. It's for Amazon, so a lot of people still are really blurry on the lines between like their computer, the website, and their devices.
Right.
So they'd often be like the problem would be that they weren't hooked up to the internet,
right?
And then you'd have to explain to them that they weren't going to any web page.
Right.
That's why they can't. Like you'd have to do tech maintenance on the whole thing,
right?
Because the problem was they didn't know how to get to the website.
People are so fucking stupid.
Yes,
people are fucking. All right, so you're working there, and you're not creatively happy doing this business bullshit.
No,
and you're thinking about the theater, correct? And
I'm actually doing a bunch of theater,
right?
In that I'm doing the whole time I work at Amazon, I'm doing sketch comedy.
Right.
I had this sketch comedy group,
right?
Doing this very intense theatrical kind of sketch comedy that was really fast. So we do like in an hour-long show, and by an hour I mean it would be like 45 minutes. We do like 22 sketches.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really good training actually for a couple of years to just do lots and we did a lot of shows. We would just like churn them out.
Right.
And in those shows, they would give me sections. They would just call like Mike does a monologue, and they would just give me space, then I wouldn't script it, and I would just like do something in those spots. And that was, I feel like a lot of I had started doing the monologues before that, but I feel like that's where it sort of like refined them.
You know, that's interesting because as a comic, when I started, I used to MC all the time, and which is the thankless job no one wants to do. But I was like, I'm getting more stage time,
right? And
I get to go isolate these little bits and make them strong in between the acts instead of just So it sounds kind of similar. All right. So you're working at Amazon. You're doing when is everyone at Amazon like, oh my God, Mike has a show this weekend? Are you guys going to Mike's show this? Was it like that?
Yeah, there was actually a lot of them would come.
Yeah,
relative to like the entire company.
Yeah.
But in my department.
Are you guys going to Mike's show?
Yeah. Because I was the only person doing anything.
Right.
Because our hours were so horrible.
Right.
That, like, I remember we had to push our rehearsals later, and even the performance. Like, I remember when it got really intense, I would work all day.
Right.
Go to the theater to do the show at 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
And then finish the show and then be like, I can't go out tonight.
Right.
I've got to go home and pass out because I have to get up tomorrow on a Saturday.
Right.
And go in at like 7 a.m. to go back to work.
I know.
Because the work ethic at Amazon is completely unhinged.
I worked, I worked too when I started because I wasn't taking money from my parents and I needed health insurance and I would work all day. That I'd go out at night, get home at 3 a.m. You know, it was, now the kids, they don't do that anymore. The kids do not do. So your first monologue, your first successful
big show would be 21 Dog Years.
Yeah. And you get press, you get... do you feel like...
it's complete... Just to be clear how crazy it was, I was doing it in another unheated garage in Seattle.
Right.
And while it was in the unheated garage in Seattle, it got like profiles in Entertainment Weekly. Like it got completely unreasonable amounts of press.
And are you thinking it's divine intervention? Are you thinking... oh my God, my life, this is it. This is it. I hit the big time.
I guess I was thinking that only when I was talking to people who are friends or who always wanted to talk about the subject of like, doesn't this feel amazing?
Right.
Most of the time, I spent that entire year screaming. Mm-hmm. Like if you looked into my head, it would have been me screaming.
Right.
Because basically I started doing the show. And the moment I sent out press releases about the show started to take off, I started doing the show in like January of 2001.
Right.
And basically the show is fundamentally about working Amazon. It's also about the rise and fall of the .com boom.
Right.
When I start doing the show, the .com boom hasn't actually collapsed yet.
Wow.
But I just made a decision that I thought it was going to.
Right.
And so the show becomes really prescient.
Right.
So then as that winter goes on and the .com bubble implodes, that's why everyone does stories because they're like, the .com bubble's imploding, and we've talked about that all week on whatever dumb show this is. But now there's a guy in a garage in Seattle who used to work at Amazon. Like you can see how it writes itself. And I just hustled so fucking hard. All I did was like media, press, managing possibility. Like I just fucking worked. But every single hour that existed from that January until September 11th.
Oh, that was the worst. That was the end of life as we know it. But were you happy at this time? Like, or were you?
Was I happy working on the show like that?
Yeah, like just when you were on stage doing the show.
Oh, when I'm on stage doing the show?
You were satisfied, and it was the rest of the.
I felt. I've always had I tend to feel really good about performing.
Yeah, same.
Like I feel like the job has two components.
Yes.
And the component of like hustling when you're not on stage.
Right. It's hell. It's hell.
And was hell. That thing I went through in 2001 that was basically almost an entire year.
Right.
That thing where something is hot.
Right.
It creates this fear in you that's going to run out.
Right.
And that fear is actually super valid.
When is it going to end?
And so you like just lay in plans. You're like best case scenario, middle case, even worst case. You're like it all dies, but I want to have something. Right. So I just was hustling like 10 different plans. Yeah. And the only reason...
It's all out of fear.
Yes.
It's just fear-based.
But the only reason the show, like I live here now and then have a career, is because I worked that hard.
Right.
Because if I had not hustled that hard, I would not have had signed contracts.
Right.
Before September 11th.
Right. You're lucky.
There is no universe where those all would have evaporated.
Right.
Like that clearly would have destroyed everything that had been done.
Yeah. It was horrible.
Yes.
I was on a show on Fox News. Like a fluff show, and they just canceled it. They were like, no more. It was bad. Ugh, fuck you, Osama. So were the people at Amazon pissed at you?
Yes,
like,
some.
Yeah.
Some. I mean, it's a particularly humorless place.
Right.
And especially over the years, kind of like one of those acid lakes that becomes more and more acidic because evaporation gets rid of the water molecules. More normal people burn out and leave. So the people who stay are like basting I don't know if you've read the articles, like New Business Week did one. Like literally the most number of people who cry at their desks at work.
Wow.
Yeah. I wrote a whole book. I adapted my show into a book, and the attitude of the place is the same in my book from 2002 as it is now.
Right.
I know I just was in Seattle. I talked to tons of people who are either working there now or associated around there. It's just super clear that the culture is exactly the same.
So it was more like, are you guys going to see Mike this weekend?
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with a Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
A People's History, yes.
Yeah.
32 hours.
Yes.
Like, really?
Yeah, really.
Like, how the fuck did you do that?
Well, first I divided into 18 shows.
Right.
So that all 32 hours don't happen all at once.
Right.
But I was adapting
that
Howard
book.
Zinn's People's History of the United States. And so basically I had two texts, and one was that book.
Right.
And the other was I went on eBay and I found my actual U.S. history textbook.
I read that. Yeah.
And so the show is basically those two texts.
Right.
As I try to teach history.
Right.
And perform it. But yeah, fundamentally, that's what I'm doing.
There's one show you did where you didn't prepare at all.
There are many shows I've done where I didn't prepare
the first time that you did that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am one who I write, I sit there and I like to wing it. Like I do like winging it. Like once I'm on stage, when I go on to do stand up, like I know I have my outline, but I like to just go off.
Yeah.
Like how fucking were you scared? You're like, you see these people wait, in the audience, they're waiting for your brilliance and you haven't prepared anything. Like what the fuck is going on in your head?
Well, fundamentally, fundamentally they're all built that way.
Right.
In the sense that I don't script. But I feel like what's evolved over time is if it's something that requires research, like if it's a very research-heavy kind of piece, then I tend to do a bunch of research. But I really I don't want – it's like I don't only want there to be no script. I don't want there to be any I don't want to write it. So I also don't want to
because it's so
make
stifling.
Notes. I don't want to make notes about what I would be doing. Like I want to actually just make it in the air. The series where I did that the most, or I started doing the most, was PS 122. Right. In 2004 or so. I did this series, All Stories Are Fiction. And in that series, I would give them titles, but the titles were evocative without being about anything in particular. And then while the audience was coming in, I would make an outline backstage. Right, that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, I wouldn't start making the outline until they were coming in. Right. And then. And did you have anxiety all day? Oh yeah. That's what people like. This is what I get all. Oh, must be nice. You work for an hour a night. I am all day. Work. I mean, we work 24 fucking hours a day. Yeah. I always feel like a good way of talking about that is to use because people aren't going to start respecting anything we do anytime soon. Right. Is to use the metaphor of jazz. Like famously, I forget which one said it, but I should Google it so I can say it with some authority. But there was some jazz person, I forget who was like, you're asking when I made up the song. Right. And so the answer is either right this moment or the last 27 years that I spent refining my work to bring me to the moment that I could make this song for you right here now. Right, exactly. And so it's kind of like, there's an interesting, very puritanical kind of quality where people really want to know, how long did you spend making this? Right. Which is funny because we don't do that with everything. We wouldn't like a cake more if it took 2 years to make. Right. In fact, we'd be kind of creeped out about why it took you 2 years to make this cake. And is it fresh? Is it fresh? We really want to know if it was fresh because it's 2 years. Right. Yeah. So the Steve Jobs thing, is it Steve Jobs or Jobs? Jobs. It is Jobs. So what the fuck happened? You did the show and then people were saying it wasn't accurate or... No, it was more accurate to say is that I did this show and then someone with a radio show begged me to put the show on his show. Right. And then they did the show on his show. Right. By recording it with an audience. Right. So that it would be the theater that it was. Right. And then they called it theater beforehand. Right. It's ridiculous. People are... I fucking hate people. No, I really generally, and I love people. There's this part of me where I want to be positive and see the good in everyone, and then there's a part of me where everyone's a fucking asshole and it's hard to, navigate through life. It is. Donald Trump. Yes. I am I don't even know. There's no words to describe what he has fucking done to me, stand up, freedom of expression. And, here you are, you do your shows and you say what you say and you get shit for it and you get accolades. Same, this guy can say whatever the fuck he wants and we're supposed to be held to a higher standard than him. So, for example, I got 2 gigs canceled because of my material, because everyone's overly sensitive. This whole idea of, just everyone getting fucking triggered by a word and not listening to the idea, and it's fucking everything up. Yeah. I mean, he's... fundamentally, it's going to have a really corrosive effect on the ability to talk about anything because he's a completely textbook narcissist. Right. So It's going to make it very difficult. The problem with civility is that the idea of civility, which is a great idea, is that there's some middle ground.
Right.
But that works best when people are in opposition on the right and the left and pulling really hard. And I think one of the things that started in the 90s and kind of continued all the way up till our present moment and is only changing right now is that the left fundamentally moved to the center.
Right.
And I think because it thought it would get more cultural power.
Right.
Being like, no, we're the parents in the room.
Right.
But I think that created slack with the right, and it caused the right to radicalize.
Right.
There are other factors, but the right fundamentally.
Well, you don't think it has to do with, like, we had a black president and they can't fucking handle it?
No, I think it started before that.
Right.
I think, though, that having a black president absolutely galvanized those things.
Do you think, who do you think was the most divisive? Like, I feel like I remember George W. and wanting to vomit every time he was on TV and, like, couldn't fucking believe he was president. And I remember it however I remember it. But I feel like this is 1,000 times worse, you know? But I still was livid during those 8 years of George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Because I felt like he stole the election also.
Yeah.
But it's like, what the fuck is going to go on? Like, what's going to happen? Are we going to recover? Are we going to recover from this shit?
No.
Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Really?
Yeah, we're not going to recover.
Like, you think that our country is...
I think that the idea of recovery is fundamentally based in the idea that if we were able to get back to where we were before X or Y, and a lot of times we're thinking, like, if we could just get back to where we were.
Well, make America,
make America great again. If we could just get back to where we were before Donald Trump was here, then things would be okay. I don't believe that's true.
Well, I feel like he's corroded the entire, like, there's no respect, there's no tradition, there's nothing. Like,
yeah, he's corroded a lot of things, but the problem is the reason he was able to get into the position he's in is because things were actually already rotten.
Right.
Like the rot, the rot is a lot deeper and more systemic. Like, it's interesting you phrase it as, like, divisive.
Right.
You know, just having done this giant show about all these parts of American history.
Right.
I honestly feel like we often point to the really divisive periods and presidents as being the most dangerous. But if I was going to talk about what the most dangerous period in the last, I really would look at the 80s and 90s.
Right.
Because in both those decades, whoever was president, both Reagan and then again with Clinton.
Yeah.
Congress worked with the president.
Right.
Like, when they work together is when the largest things happen.
Right.
Like, the reason we have an oligarchy today is because of the decisions in the 80s by Democrats working with Republicans to lower the tax rates.
Right.
Which were around 90% on people with that much money.
Right.
Down to 28%.
Right.
I don't think we're going to get back to some place.
But what about I feel like people are behaving like fucking assholes because of him.
Yes, I think that's very true.
He has made it okay, you know, to behave like a fucking dumb idiot, racist, homophobic. He's just awful. I now get on stage and it's not even about politics. It's that he's a fucking asshole.
Yes. I think that's definitely true. I think that he has, like, changed the discourse that way. And I think that's definitely a thing that his presence has done.
And also, like, most people would be fired by now.
Yes. Yes, most people would be.
Yes. Amazon coming to Queens. Thoughts?
It's terrible. Also, here's, like, a little behind the scenes thing that I heard from tons of people, multiple different corroborating sources in Seattle with friends in different positions with Amazon and outside of Amazon, but working with Amazon, confirmed basically that, you know, the reason they need to expand their headquarters, they always say, like, synergies and efficiencies.
Right.
The core reason they have to is because the labor pool in Seattle is spent for them. They need more people and they can't get them. And looking at the demographics, that wouldn't look like it was true because of just when you would run the numbers on how many programmers there are. Because remember, when we say labor pool, we mean programmers, right? Like, they need these specific
We're not talking about people who put the shit in boxes.
Right. They need the people who are programmers.
Right.
the reason the labor pool is spent for them in Seattle is those people are not applying because they have other really well-paying jobs.
Right.
At Microsoft,
right.
Google, Facebook is there now. They don't need to work at Amazon. Even further, they know that they shouldn't work at Amazon.
Right.
Everyone there fucking cries at their fucking desks.
Right.
Like they don't want the jobs. Like they have to build another headquarters specifically to trick another workforce into coming to work for them.
Right.
So that they can cry at their desks. So, I mean, I just feel like that's something people don't understand fully is that if they had not been shitty at managing their labor force, they wouldn't actually need another headquarters in the same way now. They need it specifically so they can't get people to work there because people are like, are they
going to fire people in Seattle? I mean,
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
I'm sure that once they have another place established, they'll leverage the new place against the old place. They have no loyalty whatsoever to Seattle or its people. They've always been super clear about that.
What about Facecock? Like I can't with Facecock anymore. I'm so mad on so many levels. Like I'm just mad at people and their stupid posts, but like they're like he's a fucking idiot. Like he's not nice and they knew about all this Russian and anti-Semitic. Like I can't believe it. And they're still going.
I know. I think they're terrible people. I think I'm not sure who's worse. I'm not sure if Zuckerberg's worse, who's more oblivious, or if Sheryl Sandberg is worse, for like having this pose of like helping women find themselves through a system that like is so tilted towards rich white women, and absolutely has nothing to do with anyone else's even remote form of feminism, but then also does this shit. No, it's garbage.
It's horrible.
It's really terrible.
Is there any company you think is great?
What an interesting question. No.
Wow. There's not one corporate, no.
Not really. I mean, I have corporations I feel fondly toward, despite the fact that I know I shouldn't.
Right.
No, I don't.
Wow.
They're not my friends. They have no human emotions.
Right.
They're terrible. They're small businesses, but I don't think of them as companies, you know? And even then, I don't know if there's that many small businesses that I'm that that into, you know, like in that way. I don't have a good relationship with any large corporation because they fundamentally don't have a good relationship with me.
Right.
Like they think of me as like biomass.
Right. Do you ever order anything from Amazon?
I do. I do.
I love it.
I do.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I feel a bunch of different things, including that I used to work there.
Right.
So I feel this like former coworker sort of pride.
Right.
But now increasingly mixed with like a revulsion.
Right.
Especially now that they've invaded a new city that I live in. I've watched them destroy Seattle. I want to be clear. If you haven't been to Seattle lately, they transformed something like 10 or 12 square blocks near downtown, right in the middle of the city. They literally knocked down every building and built all new buildings.
I hate that so much.
One of the most things one of the things that's most disturbing about that is how bad the architecture is. Like that, I feel like it really cuts to the heart of like the tech industry. That it's like, even if you give them a license, you're like, here, you have all the money, you implement your amazing vision. What is your amazing vision? You know what their amazing vision is? It's blocks and blocks that look the same, like a glass mall, where occasionally there's a Jimmy John's sandwich shop. I'm not even joking.
But I know, it's sad.
They're not even exciting. There's nothing exciting. There aren't like amazing sky bridges made out of amazing carbon tubes or some kind of crazy futuristic shit. It looks like a fucking mall with a fucking Jimmy John's. Because at the end of the day, these boring ass programmer people who cry at their desks would like to go eat a Jimmy John's sandwich. So it's like, it's really bad urban design. Like on top of destroying the history and all this shit, it also is shitty. Like you don't even get like a magical fairyland of future cars. It's boring.
What do you think of Apple?
I have very complicated feelings about Apple. Because I did an entire show because I was passionately in love with their products. I still feel very passionately about their products. The same time, like doing that show caused me to understand fully like how much human labor is involved in the making of these devices and how fucked up that labor is. And then I had to go through the entire gauntlet of people's reactions in public to the show,
right?
Including that even though everyone acknowledges that every single thing I talk about actually does happen,
right,
in their production lines,
right.
The how much people don't want to see any of it causes them to be like, well, Mike Daisey lied to me,
right?
Because he himself did not personally feel the broken hands of a worker,
right?
So therefore, none of these things happen and everything is fine.
And it's called theater, by the way,
very
ladies and gentlemen. It's called theater.
Yes, that is what I thought my form was. But
yeah,
I've been
it's called theater.
By others.
Okay. But the president can lie
yes.
thousands. Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, that's
fine. Blatant lies.
What becomes really clear, how power is constructed.
Right.
They're so unequipped to actually confront powerful people lying, and that's because it's built around access journalism.
Right.
So they want to keep having access to these people.
This week's episode of It's Judy Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself. You can process and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it and you sit there and you wait. And then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to BetterHelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is Gratitude Month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/JudyGold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome.
What do you think's going to happen to Trump? A lot of people I know think he's going to resign. I can't imagine. How can he fulfill the next? He's so fucking stupid.
I'm amazed. Do you really know people who think he's going to resign?
Yes.
That fascinates me.
Yeah.
There is nothing in this man's psychological profile that indicates he would ever resign.
Right.
No. I find that very hard to believe. This man will not resign.
Even when Don Jr. and his greasy fucking hair.
I feel like it could get just as bad as it was for Nixon.
Right.
And he was at the place Nixon was at.
Right.
He would not make Nixon's choice because Nixon was the devil.
Right.
But he was like a politician.
Right.
Donald Trump is not a politician. He's a narcissist.
So
he will not resign.
Will he get kicked out? Will he get indicted? I just want to see him in handcuffs, and I want to see him after his massive stroke and he talks like the guy that he made fun of.
I feel like the stroke is a much more likely scenario. In my opinion, today, I'm very open to the idea that it's an evolving situation.
Right.
I'm very open to that. But if I was betting today,
right,
I would bet that he is going to serve out this term.
Oh,
and
God.
I would further bet that he will be reelected.
No!
Unless someone's going to actually challenge him. That's what I think.
Even though he is a felon?
Even though everything you said is true, I think he's going to be reelected.
Okay, I'm going to throw up.
I'm sorry. I mean, I don't want that to be
I
true,
know, but you're one of a few people who've said that to me, and
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like,
I'm
well,
sorry.
get used to it, and it's going to be no.
I mean, I hope I'm wrong this time.
Right.
I was the guy who did an entire show about this guy before he was elected.
Right.
Literally performing it over and over again for audiences
Right.
of good liberals
Right.
who were so sure that he was not going to be elected that they actually saw my show as kind of like more a comedy than a tragedy, which is actually what it was. I think he is going to get reelected. Now, be clear, the whole topography of a presidential run depends on who actually runs.
Right.
So I'm hoping in the next 6 or 9 months it'll start becoming clear.
Right. Who's
going
gonna
to actually challenge him?
And he's going to sit there with his bully tactics.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But I I think it's very powerful to be the incumbent, and I know that he's crippled in all these different ways by his incredible unpopularity.
Right. And he's dumb.
And he is dumb.
Yeah. I always ask my guests 2 questions. One is, since we are very pro mental health, have you ever been on any antidepressants? Yes?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Sorry.
Yay. Ding, ding, ding,
I didn't
ding.
mean to just...
Yes. So, yeah, I have so many comics on who have never been on it, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But we are very pro, so a lot of listeners are like, thank you so much, because I take meds, you know. Okay, and then this is what pisses you off more than any, like, it could be anything, but makes you fucking crazy angry?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's like, I love to know what the fucking makes people crazy.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think. I don't know what makes
I
me
have
angry.
like I get I have road rage, but I do get incompetence, but like also people looking at their phones while they're walking up the stairs to get out of the subway. Like just this people with no fucking just clue that you're invading other people's space.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And your actions are
That's a good one.
and I hate people who do not question authority. That's the other thing I can't stand.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
I feel like I think I have a problem with
Anger.
No, I know what makes me angry. So I'm actually thinking of doing a whole show about it. I really, really get upset by bad faith.
Oh.
I feel like bad faith is like the thing I'm most upset about.
Oh, yeah.
Like watching Republicans preen about things when you know they don't actually mean it.
Right.
Watching people argue, and I put argue in quotes right here, argue about climate change when they know they have no science on their side.
Right.
When they know that they just want it not to be true.
Right.
Like they won't honestly say, no, we just don't like the idea that it's true, and so we're just denying it blatantly, and we have no logical reason to deny it, and we're just doing that because we're fiddling while Rome burns. Like bad faith, the thing where we have to pretend we're having a real argument, even though we're not, and you're just fucking lying inside the argument.
And you know you're lying.
And you know you're lying, and I know you're lying, and no one will let us like stop the argument and call you out or just be like, this interview is over, this debate. I hate that.
Do you feel disdain also for the people who are being manipulated by, like I look at these fucking idiots at these rallies. Sorry, but these fucking Nazi rallies where he's lying and and they're all like, that's right, but it's like I hate him for inciting this kind of behavior, but I hate them for being so fucking stupid and not doing their job of like knowing the fucking real truth. You know what I mean? And he wouldn't even let half those people into Mar-a-Lago.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. For me, I think probably because of where I came from, I don't have that as much.
You don't have disdain for that. Yeah, of course.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not able to. I think that I just grew up around a lot of people without a lot of money. And so I'm just like really used to the idea that
that they're looking at him as their savior, and he's going to make them rich.
I always think it's important to keep like the number. The country has 340 million people, so these rallies seem so large, but they're not that big.
Right.
Not that many people are actually so excited about Donald Trump. Right. And also, it's like that Acid Lake thing. These are the most. These are people who are so into Donald Trump that they would get in their pickup and then drive to the Donald Trump rally. Right. Which is actually, if you think about it, is super dorky, fucking weird fucking thing
mental.
to do.
Yeah.
And like the numbers are impressive, but they're not, these rallies are often like 15,000 people out of like 340 million.
Right.
So, I mean, I expect those people to be pretty like fucking bonkers.
Right.
Because like they've gone through a bonkers sieve.
Right.
To sieve out like the most bonkers people who will come together to do this fucking thing. What bothers me more, and although I understand it from having grown up in northern Maine, is I know it bothers me. It's not the apathy, which I make an argument in this recent show, is the dominant political party is actually apathy. But that good liberals, who I'm often talking to because it's the theater, don't understand that the apathy party has a compelling argument. That people started being more and more apathetic after Watergate. And then they learn more and more about how their government actually works and makes them more and more apathetic. And that's because they honestly look at how fucked up the world is and they see that nothing changes. And then they think legitimately, why do you want me to vote so fucking badly when nothing ever changes in the rural place I live in? Nothing ever gets better. And yet you tell me that I'm a jerk for not voting. You can't prove to me. You don't make me an argument what will change, because even you don't believe it's going to change for me. You just want to let me know that I'm a shithead for not having voted. So I feel very defensive sort of on the apathy party's behalf, that like I really feel like if people on the left want people to vote in larger numbers and for this apathy group to become energized and then go to the polls, you have to actually like reach out to them. And reaching out is not the same as like actively trying to shame people into voting. And so I can't believe how often I feel like the left gets that thing where everyone's like, we're scolds. I think we get it a lot because of this kind of behavior. Like, you can't scold people into voting. Like, it's not a fucking thing. You could just like make them feel bad enough and they will go vote. And if they did, they do it like once and then resent you and not come back again.
And it's that's true. Their lives do not change.
No, we don't.
It's not like I voted and now I feel whatever.
I mean, you can even see it in recent presidents. Like, look at Obama. Like. Obama was everyone misses him because the person is crazy. Obama ran on a platform. It was very clear. He did this interesting thing where his persona and his speaking skill made people put all sorts of expectations on him. But what he actually talked about was, I'm a centrist. I'll be making very little to the left, but centrist decisions. I won't be changing that much. But I'll be doing this and this. And so, people sort of invested in him.
But I also won't be embarrassing this country.
He's very much didn't embarrass anyone. But fundamentally, it's not like he moved the needle and people in rural areas are like, things are appreciably different. And so, like if you're going to galvanize people, you probably would have to make a platform that was like the one I talk about in the show recently is how if you poll not just likely voters, but everyone, if you actually poll everyone and you ask them the question, would you be willing to shrink military spending by half from about 40% of our budget to 20% if in exchange we got universal health care? And the approval rate on that is somewhere around 80%.
Wow.
It's been 80% for decades. It actually started around 65% in like the 80s and has risen and risen. It's now close to 80%. It's only that high when you poll everyone. As in you'll see a lot of polling will actually say likely voters. Likely voters means you're only polling the 50% of people who vote. If you poll everyone, most people are like, I would like the military to be smaller if I could have actual health care. No one on the Democratic side or the Republican side currently has any intention
of doing that.
Of not only of doing it, of even promising it or bringing it up. It's way too crazy. Even though we don't need that as much military as we have, we literally have a military that's capable of holding 2 simultaneous full-scale wars at the same time. Like, that's its goal. It's supposed to be so large they can fight 2
such
completely
a small
unrelated
fucking
wars
penis bullshit
all the time. And so if we just went down to 1 war at all times, we could have health care right away for everyone. We don't want that. And by we, I mean the people in charge. Actual people do. So if you
But they don't give a shit about.
But if you wanted to get people to vote who don't vote and you made them a platform thing like that, you can imagine getting some percentage of those non-voting people to be like,
to get their asses out,
and then they might vote. No one wants to make proposals like that. And this is one of the reasons things stay.
Right.
And then the left kind of expects that people will get excited because they're like, we'll make reasonable strides that are incremental. It's like that. No one gets excited about that. You need to like actually say, I'm changing something.
Wow. This country's fucked up.
The country is fucked up.
You're not.
Oh, thank you.
So where can people find you, Mike?
On the Facebook and the Twitter and the Instagram. And
Are you at Mike Daisey?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. And where next show? When? Where? Book?
I'm working on this book right now. I've got to finish this book up and get it all the way in. It's actually related to some of the things we've just been talking about.
Oh, I love it. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I could talk to, I could go on for 3 more hours, but unfortunately we can't. But you're fucking great.
Oh, thank you. I'm really glad you had me on.
No, I'm so happy. Thank you, Laura. Get my fucking album, you assholes. My album, Kill Me Now. It's out. I can't believe I didn't fucking tell you guys. My album's out. Get it. Download it. Just listen to it and buy it for gifts for your family. Because it's, it's fun family time of me cursing and screaming. Happy New Year. And thank you to Mike Daisey. I think this episode, or these 2 episodes, the least amount of Jubel I think we've ever had.
I know. I'm Hanukkah.
Yeah. Very good.
Dreidel.
Yay. Diarrhea. Okay. Thank you all for listening. And as we always say, so long.
And everything was wonderful. I'll see you soon. Thank you for the visit. So long.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.